Good afternoon, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day to us all. I guess we will need the luck of the Irish to get through this budget, but I am really, really happy that you are joining us today for this year's General Conference Committee, or as we affectionately call it, the Mothership. I'm pleased to be here alongside my colleague and partner in legislative leadership, Speaker Carl Heastie, and I'd also like to recognize the Deputy Senate Minority Leader Andrew Lanza, Assembly Minority Leader Will Barclay, and thank you for your input and continued collaboration. The Senate Majority's budget is a fiscal battle plan to protect New Yorkers from federal cuts while investing in the needs of everyday families. We prioritize affordability, economic opportunity, and fairness to ensure New York remains a leader in smart governance and economic justice. Our budget plan delivers substantial long-term tax relief to working families and seniors by providing rebate checks, enhancing the Working Families Tax Credit, and expanding the Earned Income Tax Credit. It ensures economic equity by asking the ultra-wealthy and large corporations to contribute their fair share. Makes critical investments in education, childcare, higher education, healthcare, mental health, and public safety. It addresses New York's housing crisis through significant investments to expand access to affordable homes and support home ownership opportunities. It promotes economic growth by supporting small businesses and new unemployment insurance tax credits, revitalizing local downtowns, and enhancing MWBE support. It prioritizes environmental stewardship and climate action, investing significantly in clean water, renewable energy, and infrastructure resilience. It strengthens veteran services by expanding resources dedicated to job training, housing, and mental health support. It enhances public safety by investing in community-focused safety programs, transparency, and law enforcement and justice reforms. It ensures our dedicated workers receive fair wages and benefits by expanding temporary disability insurance and prevailing wage protections. Together with Governor Hochul and our Assembly partners, we're committed to turning these proposals into tangible results that advance our state and strengthen our communities. And now, I'm pleased to introduce my Senate colleagues on this committee. To my right, Finance Chair Liz Krueger, Senator Liz Krueger, the Deputy Majority Leader, Michael Gianaris, and the, right on time, the Chair of the Democratic Conference, Jose Serrano, and Senator Andrew Gennardes, who is the Majority Revenue Committee Chair, and the alternate, again, as I mentioned before, for the Deputy Minority Leader, Andrew Lanza. So I will now turn the floor over to my partner in legislative leadership, Speaker Carl Heastie.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader, and good afternoon. And on behalf of the Assembly, we're pleased to convene the Joint Budget Conference Committee. At this time, I would like to introduce the members of the Assembly who are serving on the General Budget Conference Committee. We have Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, maiden voyage of Ways and Means Committee Chair Gary Pretlow, Deputy Speaker Phil Ramos, another maiden voyage here, Speaker Pro Temp Pamela Hunter, Minority Leader Will Barclay, and Assembly Member Ed Ra, who's the ranker on Ways and Means. Together, we've worked to craft a budget that puts money back into the pockets of New Yorkers while investing in programs that are critical to the families across the state. Our budget will provide tax relief for New York families, including providing a 1% tax cut that will benefit over 8 million New Yorkers. It would also create the New York Works tax credit and the LIFT tax credit, putting money back into the wallets of families so they can decide how best to use their money. Access to safe, affordable childcare is at the forefront of every parent's mind. We've worked hard over the years to make childcare more affordable and have continued in this budget, including $2 billion for childcare subsidies to help ease the burden on parents. Our plan continues the investments in families and in our youth, including $100 million for after-school programs that serve young people up to age 18, as well as $5 million for after-school programs that serve high-needs populations. The Assembly's budget would also establish new programs for our state's young people. We included $100 million to establish the Learning, Empowering, and Development, or LEAD, Summer Youth Employment Program, as well as $80 million to establish the Community Help Improving Lives Daily, or the CHILD Program for at-risk youth in high-needs communities. Every child in the state deserves a world-class education. In our budget, we've included $27 billion in foundation aid, updating the formula to make investments in our schools that will help every child, regardless of zip code or school district, learn and put them on the path to a bright future. The small businesses that sit at the heart of communities across our state have struggled with high rates due to debt owed to the Federal Unemployment Trust Fund. Included in our plan is $7 billion to eliminate that debt, easing the financial burden on small businesses and ensuring that New Yorkers that lose their jobs receive unemployment benefits that have kept up with the cost of living. Because the cost of living has gone up and it impacts every facet of our lives, from groceries to housing to higher education, the Assembly majority is committed to making our state a more affordable place to live, work, and raise a family. We've invested in programs to help New Yorkers access affordable housing and help those that are at risk of facing homelessness. Our budget will provide free tuition for community colleges, increase eligibility for the tuition assistance program, and support opportunity programs so we can put higher education within reach for every aspiring student. We funded programs to help our most vulnerable populations, combating hunger across the state with Nourish New York and the Hunger Prevention Assistance Program, creating the Inspire program to help new mothers and their babies, and investing in after-school programs that are so beneficial to both our kids and parents. Our commitment has always been to uplift New York's families and give every New Yorker access to the tools and resources that thrive in the state. I believe that our budget does just that. I look forward to working with my Assembly colleagues and with our partners in the Senate and with the governor to craft a budget that will invest in families and make New York a better, more affordable place to live. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lanza.
Thank you, Majority Leader, Speaker, Minority Leader of the Assembly, Assemblyman Barkley, my counterpart in the Senate, Senator Janaris, and to all my colleagues here. You know, when you spend this much money, there's obviously a lot of good things there, and we don't dispute that. There are basic needs that New Yorkers have in terms of its infrastructure, its roads, its hospitals, and the like, and this budget deals with that. But my job in the minority, as the loyal opposition, is to point out the things where we think this budget goes wrong. And certainly when you spend $17 billion more than the largest budget in the country did last year, we feel that that only makes New York $17 billion less affordable for New Yorkers. And after the last federal administration, the Biden administration, 4 years of backward policies, we saw the cost of everything increase here in New Yorkers. And New Yorkers know that. Democrats, Republicans, they tell us New York is too expensive. A lot of it was because of the failed policies of the Biden administration. We believe on my side of the aisle that this budget does not do enough to address those problems. The public safety crisis, the migrant crisis, skyrocketing utility costs, high taxes, a business climate that is less than inviting. And here, on top of the cost of that New Yorkers already face in New York, this budget increases taxes by $1.2 billion. $2 billion increase in taxes on businesses, and just at a time when it's just getting harder to heat your home and cool your home in the summer, $405 million in increased fuel taxes. And there's another area here which we really believe New Yorkers need to hear more about, and hopefully we're able to convince the majority to back off in this area, which is the HEAT Act, which is in the budget. And this is going to force homeowners across New York to spend thousands of dollars to retrofit their houses to meet this regulation. It's going to increase monthly utility bills for every New Yorker. And it's going to dismantle affordable energy infrastructure that's already in place. Listen, we know on our side of the aisle, you need to transition into the next phase of how we're going to produce energy here in New York and America. But in the meantime, we should not force New Yorkers to dismantle infrastructure in place. We should not force New Yorkers who can't afford things as they are to spend even more. And then finally, on my side of the aisle, we feel and we see, and every New Yorker sees, that the open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration has really hurt New York. And as a result, in terms of what that impact is on New York, I think the one that is really most harmful, and the one that we should all agree we need to do something about, and that is the fact that Biden open borders allowed drug cartels to bring fentanyl into New York. We're still reeling. Let's not see a 2025 here in New York where another 7,000 New Yorkers lose their lives because New York is unable to keep these drugs out of our state. And I know my colleagues across the aisle want to work on that as well. We're going to continue to be there to press that issue, and we look forward to going through this process, and hopefully the majority can see their way to listen to some of the comments and input that we have on our side. And I think the main point is that we've got to make New York affordable. We're a partner there. We just don't think this budget gets there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to say a few words here. To begin with, I want to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. And I don't know if you're going to have too much green on St. Patrick's Day, but the way these budget proposals spend money, they may be the exception to the rule. When it comes to the budget, the Assembly Republican Conference has always stood for two things: fiscal constraint and fiscal accountability. Unfortunately, the proposals put forth here by the governor and the majorities in both houses accomplish neither. I think there's some statistics that the public ought to know as we go through this budget proposal and this budget negotiation. First, if we adopt the governor's proposal, state spending over the last 5 years will have increased by $74.5 billion. That's 42%. If we adopt the Assembly Majority One House proposal, state spending over the last 5 years will have increased by $79 billion, or almost 45%. On top of all that, if we adopt the Senate Majority One House proposal, state spending over the last 5 years will have increased by $81.4 billion, or almost 46%. This was a number that kind of stuck out to me and jumped out at me. Was since Governor Hochul was first elected as Lieutenant Governor in 2015, state spending has increased by approximately $114 billion, or 83%. So, on top of all this spending, we have some of the highest tax rates in the nation. Indeed, on a per capita basis, New Yorkers pay almost $6,000 a year in taxes. That's the highest in the nation. These numbers are eye-popping. So the question becomes, what do all these tax and spend policies give New Yorkers? Let's take health care to start off with. The number one expense in our budget is health care. Medicaid spending is the most expensive in the country. We spend the most on health care per capita, yet we rank 29th in prevention and treatment and 44th in avoidable hospital use and cost. And despite the billions that are being invested, the challenges of inefficiency, overcrowded hospitals, and long wait times continue to diminish the quality of care. Let's move to education. We spend the most per pupil than any other state in the nation, And in the last 5 years, we have increased school spending by 45%. And despite all this spending, New York student performance remains underwhelming. In the last 10 years, the total student population has dropped by 7.3%, but state spending on education has gone up 61%. Clearly, there's a disconnect between spending and performance. Let's take another big budget item, transportation and infrastructure. As far as transportation, New York ranks near the bottom of states in terms of commute times, road quality, and public transit accessibility. Yet we have authorities like the MTA, whose budget of nearly $20 billion is bigger than the budget of 14 other states. Now, as my colleague Senator Lanza mentioned, when you have this size or this much spending, of course there's things that you're going to like in the proposals. In fact, there's a number of things that my conference has advocated for several years. Things like the child care tax credit and the middle class tax cut. In the Assembly, there's things that I like in that proposal too. In fact, we're very supportive of the majority's proposal to pay down the unemployment insurance debt. So in conclusion, I want to thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to speak. I look forward to working with all the members of the legislature in a very transparent and open manner to be able to pass an on-time budget this year that takes care of all the needs of all the New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barkley. The Senate and Assembly have each executed the joint certificate, beginning the conference committee process in an effort to reconcile variations in the budget proposals passed by each house.
The Senate designates Shelley Andrews as the Senate's recording secretary of the General Conference Committee.
The Assembly designates Julia Bertolino as the Assembly's recording secretary of the General Conference Committee. We have appointed members to the various joint budget subcommittees, and lists of the member assignments to each subcommittee have been distributed by the press offices.
The General Conference Committee will meet as needed. The schedule for joint budget subcommittee meetings has also been distributed by the press offices.
The General Conference Committee is now adjourned, subject to the call of the co-chairs. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.